Euromaxx. And here's your host, Karen Helmstedt.
Hello there and welcome to Euromaxx at the weekend. Opera divas, as they go, often share a few basic traits. They're famous, sometimes secretive, often temperamental, and always unforgettable. And so it was with perhaps the best-known diva of the last century, the dramatic soprano Maria Callas. Born in America, educated in Greece, and celebrated all over the world, her dramatic life and tragic end often overshadowed her artistic achievements in the press. Well, 30 years after her death, we learn that the woman who kept to a rigid diet for most of her career compensated with a passion for cooking and recipes. And a brand new cookbook, Maria Callas, La Divina in Cucina, revives this passion for her fans.
Whether it was music or food, for Callas, the best was barely good enough. Between her legendary appearances on stage, she dined at some of the most famous restaurants in the world, always peeking over the chef's shoulder. She wrote down her favorite recipes, adding them to her collection. Callas's culinary secrets have now been published by music critic Bruno Tosi.
When she ate in a restaurant or at a friend's house, she'd delight her host or the owner by popping into the kitchen. She'd have the recipe dictated to her, so she could then pass it on to her own cooks.
As a young opera star, she would have liked to have been both diva and housewife, but she didn't have much time for the latter. And when she felt herself becoming uncomfortably overweight, she forced herself to adhere to a strict diet. The diet fueled her passion for collecting recipes of dishes she now only nibbled at. In Venice, she often headed to the Colombo near the Rialto Bridge. Chef Sandro Stanziani cooked for the diva in her glory years.
Callas came here often and either sat in that corner or inside at that table.
Flambéed steak with green Madagascar pepper was one of Callas's favorites. In his heyday, Michelin star Chef Sandro was able to delight up to 160 guests at a time. But when Callas came, everything revolved around her.
If she enjoyed something, she'd come into the kitchen and ask for the recipe and write it down. Or else I'd show her how it was cooked. Callas enjoyed eating. She was a gourmet. She wanted to know how to prepare octopus, or dried cod, and other fish dishes, and she'd nibble at a bit of everything.
Next door, in the Venetian main post office, Bruno Tosi shows off his personal Callas collection, including her notes on recipes.
She was on a strict diet: salad, steak, raw liver. But she continued to entertain her guests and collect recipes from all over the world.
Some favorites: scampi flamingo, lamb and grape leaves, sirloin with pineapple, oyster pastries. When Callas arrived, she only wanted him. Sandro knew she'd want to eat real Venetian food, especially sepiolina, fresh from the lagoon, with parsley and white wine.
Prezzemolo e vino bianco. Ecco. Beh, la Callas preferiva.
Callas loved these little calamares, especially with black risotto. Nowadays, the Japanese eat them. Back then, it was a dish only for a select few, and she was only given the best.
To maintain her figure, Maria Callas only nibbled at her meal, so she could at least enjoy all of her dessert. She adored desserts. They were the only things she continued to prepare herself.
For those of you who'd like to know more about La Callas, we have a copy of the book La Divina in Cucina to give away. All you need to do is write to us by September 29th with